Zoundz was born through a conversation with a veterinarian friend. He was becoming more frustrated in terms of examining dogs and cats because of their levels of anxiety. And he didn't see it getting better. He was seeing it getting worse and worse. Immediately, I started to wonder if there's any sort of studies out there to show how music can actually have a positive impact on both dogs and cats. However, the music that is common for cats is totally opposite of what's common for dogs. So if you play cat music for dogs, it'll actually have an adverse effect on the dog. We always advise to play the dog music because the dog music does not have a negative effect on the cats.
Welcome to the Afluencer podcast. We've got something for our pet owners today, especially those like me with a high anxiety pet, shall we say. I've got a dog who absolutely hates it when we leave. It's a very stressful situation for her on the separation anxiety. So we're going to talk about a solution that I did not know about. So we're happy to have Derrick Garrett on here. It is his company, the new Zoundz app, which is something that'll help reduce the anxiety in our pets, whether we're leaving them or it's the 4th of July, right? With the fireworks. 4th of July is turned into its own week now where you get fireworks for the week. So it's kind of a nightmare from a pet owner.
Month.
Right? Whole month, right, Derrick? Yeah. So Derrick, welcome. And take us through what inspired you to create this sound-based solution here for pet anxiety.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brett. I really appreciate you inviting me to come on. So it wasn't like Zoundz was born through a conversation. So I was having a conversation with a veterinarian friend / neighbor one evening after work, and he was just kind of vetting to me on how I was becoming more and more frustrated. He was becoming more frustrated in terms of examining dogs and cats because of their levels of anxiety. And he didn't see it getting better. He was seeing it getting worse and worse. And he also shared how pet parents would a lot of times blame the vet and the vet tech and say, hey, my dog is fine at home, my cat's fine at home, it's got to be you all, and no, I'm not giving them meds. So that conversation really sparked my interest because in another business that I have, we provide music architecture for hotels and resorts. And I know how music can drive human behavior. So immediately I started to wonder if there's any sort of studies out there to show how music can actually have a positive impact on both dogs and cats. And sure enough, I found 3 or 4 studies that were conducted that showed how there are specific parameters in a song, such as chord progression, tempo, the key that the song is written in, the overall instrumentation. When you bring these elements together, they actually can have a common effect on both dogs and cats. However, the music that is common for cats is totally opposite of what's common for dogs. So if you play cat music for dogs, it'll actually have an adverse effect on the dog.
Ironically, I guess that's kind of fitting. Okay,
right.
Cool. That's interesting. Our first dog, my current one's just laying here in the office with me, so she lives the life. But our first Weimaraner, I mean, we used to leave him at home and he would be cozied up in his kennel, but my wife would play like classical music next to him, and it was kind of cute. It was kind of funny because it was like he was like a psycho patient in the kennel, just being calm with this music. But I mean, we didn't know if it was working. He kind of had the hunch. So that's interesting that the animals do respond and the dogs do respond to certain chord progressions then on the music.
Right. But I always like to clarify, dogs and cats do not respond to genres of music. Now, the specific parameters can fall under any genre. And so when you see music being played that is actually common for them, it's not the genre necessarily. It's that particular song happens to fall within the parameters that calm them, and so you see a common reaction. But your dogs are not loving reggae or any sort of specific genre necessarily.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting. So I assume in the app then we can go cat dog path based on the animal, and then it walks us through what.
Yes, that's exactly right. And a lot of times we get this question, well, what do we have both a dog and a cat in the home? And we always advise to play the dog music because the dog music does not have a negative effect on the cats. However, the cat music will have a negative effect on the dogs.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. What do you advise then for, let's say, the 4th of July week, month we're talking about? Are we going to turn up the app and get the get the music going then at night, so and play it all through the night potentially for the dogs?
Yeah, well, it's actually a process, and we do a lot of educating leading up to the 4th of July. Like this year, we started earlier than ever. I think we started like sending out different, just updates and education materials as early as April. And what we recommend is we have a channel on our app called Environmental Sounds, and the Environmental Sounds channel is a suite of just sounds such as fireworks, thunderstorms, a lot of sounds that are in the home that trigger anxiety that people don't realize, such as vacuum cleaners, blenders. And so what we recommend specifically for the July 4th, we recommend that people start as early as possible playing the fireworks sounds within the Environmental Sounds channel so they can start getting used to it. And you don't have to play it on loud volume, but just start getting them used to it, especially for pups. It's really, really great for pups. It's also great for adults, but we also advise for adult dogs and cats to work with some sort of animal behaviors or veterinarian, because we're not a veterinarian and we're not an animal behaviors, or I'm not. So we recommend for adult dogs or seniors to work with some sort of professional, because you could do more harm than good. But for pups, you could, absolutely, for a pup, you should start playing all of these sounds, thunderstorms, fireworks, as early as possible to start conditioning them to the sounds. And then once the actual event is taking place, such as thunderstorms, fireworks, or even during Halloween, like, the doorbells ringing, all nonstop.
Yeah.
What we recommend, we have a channel under our Therapeutic Sounds that's called Scary Sounds. And that particular channel is what you play during the actual event, right? And so that's actually sound masking through white noise and the common sounds of Zoundz Therapeutics playing simultaneously. So you're calming them and masking the exterior sound simultaneously.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's interesting on the conditioning working for them. So how have you educated pet owners on this notion of the pet anxiety? I know, so, I mean, for me, it's obvious that, some of these breeds, dogs, against my experience, that they're naturally anxious, and as an owner, like the 4th of July, maybe if you're a first-time owner, you don't understand what's coming. Or I think Halloween's a great example, right? Because that doorbell's ringing, and everyone's dressed up in costumes. They don't even look like people as they're marching to the door. So how have you educated people on that front in terms of anxiety and conditioning?
So we have, from the very beginning, we wanted to make sure that we stayed rooted in the science. So we were really fortunate to be able to bring on Dr. Lisa Radasta, who's a board certified animal behaviors. And so she's been, she works very closely with us. And what we do is we just, we try to put out as much, through social media. We try to educate people, but what we also, the big piece, I think, or a big educational piece is helping to educate people on the triggers that actually, so people think when, their dog is using the bathroom in the home that, that they're a bad dog and they're doing it to be spiteful, or the cat's doing it to be spiteful, but it's not. That's actually a signal that something is actually triggering them to have anxiety. That's a sign of anxiety. And so that's where we really try to educate on just being able to identify different triggers that's signaling that there's some sort of anxiety taking place. And then once, and then the next step is just, again, advising them on how to use the Environmental Sounds channels to start to condition the pups or the dogs for, these various sounds that trigger the anxiety, to try to stay ahead of it. And then the other piece, as I spoke about a little while ago, and then trying to equip them, like when the event is actually happening, how do they actually, what should take place, putting the dog or the cat in a safe place, playing Zoundz. But one of the things I would say, we don't just say Zoundz is the end all say all, and we don't bash meds or bash, any other products, because in some cases, the anxiety is so, it's so high, you need a combination of tools to be able to, reduce that anxiety, even if it's just a little. So at the end of the day, the main concern and the main goal is to get that the anxiety reduced. And if it takes multiple products, then that's great.
Do you have any examples you can share with us, Derrick, in terms of Zoundz helping improve the well-being of animals and reduce that anxiety level?
Yeah, absolutely. One story that I like to share, we actually partnered with a doggy daycare center, and they're great because, well, not they were, they are great because they actually have, they accommodate senior dogs, which some doggy daycare centers they don't. And this particular doggy daycare center, they had a senior dog who just had anxiety was just through the roof. And the dog would just literally spend the entire time there walking in circles. And they started to, the first place they started to use Zoundz was in the senior area where they kept the senior dogs. And they wrote me after like a week of playing Zoundz in that area, the dog actually stopped circling, which was a
Awesome.
sign to them that
Yeah.
the anxiety was significantly reduced. So that's a story I always like to share because I mean, listen, you're not for it's going to vary from dog to dog, cat to cat. Some cases it's not going to work. That's the reality. Especially if they're already at a certain peak. In some cases it works really well. So, but that's a really solid case of seeing Zoundz in action and really being impactful.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I assume we're looking for influencers to help share messages Zoundz, how people can download the app, share their experience with Zoundz, right? And kind of help get the word out there to pet owners. So what are we looking at in terms of your ideal influencer partner?
I would say our ideal influencer partner is someone who's truly a pet owner, first and foremost, who could actually, use the app. We will gladly provide them with the app, and we encourage them to use it for a week, 2 weeks, however long they need to use it to really be familiar with the app. We are not really into just providing them with our creative assets and logos. We want them to use the app and show, the app in action in an organic way. So I would say we really are looking for more organic influencers who could actually highlight and showcase the product in use.
Yeah, very cool. And where can we find Zoundz? I assume in our friendly app store, whether it's Apple, iTunes, or Android.
Yes. So if you go to the app stores, it's Zoundz Therapeutic Sounds for pet anxiety, and we're in both the Android store as well as the Google. I'm sorry, as well as the iOS Apple store. Of course, we have a website which is zoundzforpets.com, and Zoundz is with a Z. So you think of sounds and you place the S's with Z's. So it starts with a Z, ends with a Z. Zoundz.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I was going to say that. So punch in the app store ZOUNDZ, and you'll get the Zoundz Therapeutic Sounds.
Right.
Right.
That's exactly
cool,
right.
Cool. And how can people follow you on social media as well? It sounds like a lot of good anxiety type research that you're sharing with your.
Yeah, so we're active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. All the normal handles. I don't think we're so active on what used to be Twitter, whatever it's called now. But yeah, we're pretty much on all this. So we have a YouTube channel that we're going to start really ramping up content for. So yeah, so they all the normal social channels.
Yeah, very cool. So all of our pet influencers, great opportunity here. Try out this app for your pets, dogs, cats, and great tips from Derrick in terms of which Zoundz to play for which. So yeah, we appreciate you joining, Derrick, and we will get the link to your collab below the show notes here. So our influencers who are watching this, just look lower. You can apply and we'll get you into Derrick's inbox so you can potentially chat with us. So Derrick, thanks so much. This has been really interesting, educating me and us about pet anxiety, what you've created with Zoundz. Very cool.
Thank you so much, Brett. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Great. Same here. Yeah. Thanks again, Derrick.